Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to my YouTube channel. I know it's taking me a little bit of time to get this video out. It's because it's a difficult subject, and it's something I don't really want to talk about too much anymore. I'm trying to keep this channel and my content as positive as possible. There's more than enough negativity in the world. There's more than enough negative YouTube channels and people talking about subjects like racism, bigotry, sexism, homophobia that you can find out anywhere. So in this channel, I wanted to give you guys an escape, a little bit of positivity and energy and fun and motivation to get out there and travel. But sometimes there are things that I can't look the other way, and racism is one of those things. And I have not experienced a lot of overt racism. I've said this many a times. Almost 5 years of travel, I've never experienced overt racism anywhere but St. Petersburg and Buenos Aires, Argentina. But this last trip, for anybody who follows me on Facebook and Instagram, if you're not following me on Facebook and Instagram, you know that my time in Warsaw, Poland was a difficult time. And I came face to face with nationalism for the first time. And I majored in government, so I know nationalism. I've studied nationalism, and I'm American. I understand what's going on at home. But I have not been home since Donald Trump was elected. Last time I was back in the United States was January 2016, so well over a year. And as I understand it, things are getting ugly back home. I'll be home in a couple weeks, so I'll see for myself. Let me get right into what happened in Poland. So let me start this by saying, giving you guys a little bit of perspective on how I view things. I have kind of my identity matrix, or my triforce of identities. At the very top is I identify as a human being first and foremost. Then I identify as an American, and then I identify as black, then male down there. But those first three things, those core things, human, American, black, are the foundation of who I am as a person. And I tend to look at things from those perspectives rolling down. So first I look at it as a human. Like, is this right as a human? Is this something I should be saying, or is this something I should be doing, or something I should be feeling? Or is this something they should be doing or saying or feeling? Then I look at it from a perspective of American. Where my privilege comes in. What did my identity as American have to do with this situation? What does my country's policy have to do with the way things are? And then as a black man, how is my background and my cultural identity affecting this situation and my perspective of things? So that's how I view things. I had spent a lot of time in Poland before, but I hadn't been to Warsaw since 2013. I go to Krakow yearly. At this point, I think I've been to Krakow every year for the past 7-8 years. I go to Krakow quite often. My interaction with Polish people are normally outside of Poland now. I spent, like I said, I spent a lot of time in Poland. I lived in Poland once upon a time. I spent a lot of time around Polish people growing up in Cleveland. I grew up on pierogies. So all my perspectives about Polish people came from this bubble view. And I didn't understand that bubble view until this recent trip. Every time that I had gone to Warsaw, it was within a bubble. I was either with my military brothers and sisters, I was with Polish friends, I was with other journalists. So every time I went, I was in a little bubble of protection where I didn't have to interact with everyday Polish people or Warsaw residents. So that skewed my view, which is not uncommon, because a lot of situations, a lot of places I go, I am in some kind of bubble. I'm in the journalist bubble, or I'm in the backpacker bubble, or I'm meeting up with local friends. That bubble isn't new. So when I got to Warsaw this time, I was actually with a good friend of mine, Tony, who's also black. And the thing about Tony is Tony's a bigger black man. It's funny because a lot of people look at me, I don't want to say that I'm not black, but I'm not stereotypically black. I like to say I'm Will Smith black. I'm that non-threatening black guy. You know, I'm lighter skinned. I have a shaved head. I'm just not a stereotypical media perspective of black. Tony, on the other hand, little bit stereotypically looking, and it's just the way he is. It's just who Tony is. He's a burly, kind of a football player sized guy. So when me and him arrived in Poland, I said to him, I said, look, man, Polish guys, they aren't the most warm cats to us. Now, I'm looking at my phone to make sure, sorry about that, I got time. So I told him, like, look, man, Polish guys aren't really with us, man. They're not our biggest fans. And let me explain this before any of my Polish friends or any of my Polish viewers see this. In my experience, having been to Poland over 30 times, interacting with Polish men and women from all walks of life, I've always found that Polish men were a little cold. And this is just me. I mean, I can get a couple of my friends to come and comment as well, who are also black men who've traveled to Poland, and tell you the same thing, that Polish men, they've always come off a little bit cold towards us. I'm not exactly sure why. I don't want to really speculate why, but that's just the feeling that we get when we go to Poland. Polish women, on the other hand, lots of love. So it's, you know, two sides. I've got a lot of Polish guy friends, so don't want you guys to think I'm just attacking Polish men. So we get there, and I put that in. I let him know, you know, that's just something. It's just the way it is. You know, what can you do in Warsaw? And as we go through the day, we started to kind of, like Tony before me, started to notice the stairs. Now, let me explain something to you about the stairs, and I think women understand this. A lot of times, I used to have trouble understanding women who was like, oh, well, I feel threatened by the way he looks at me. I'm like, how? He looks at you the same way everybody looks at you. I look at you like that. And they say, well, it's different. It's a different thing. I'm not a woman. I can empathize, but I can never understand properly what that feeling is like. And that's the same thing about being a person of color traveling. Like you can't really, and people call it microaggression. I don't really call it microaggression because it's pretty fucking clear. Like, it's a look of disgust and disdain on a person's face. Like you can see the malice and the anger in their expression. It's something that's so difficult for me to explain, and I can't even really show it because you never capture it on tape or film or anything. Just know it is a overwhelming feeling of tension when you're in an environment where everybody is looking at you this way. And I've been places where I've got this look before, but it wasn't from like a vast majority of people like it was in Warsaw. And at one point, we were walking down the street, and Tony's like, I'm so sick of this shit. I'm like, what? He was like, all these fucking people looking at us crazy like this. And when I look, I can see it. People just at the bars, walking down the street, in the vehicles, looking at us like we're like crazy. Like we just kicked their puppy in front of them or something. Like, it was nuts. So the entire time we were there, that's all you got, the entire experience. Then every single restaurant was saved one place, which is absolutely amazing. I'm going to link it down below. I saved it in my phone. Amazing restaurant. But every restaurant, I want to say we went to 6 or 7 restaurants and cafes. Everybody was rude. Like, everybody was just dismissive of us. Like, it was like people didn't even want to serve us. Like, it was the most uncomfortable I felt in a long time. Like, really long time. And it breaks my heart because Poland is one of my happy places. If you guys go back to the videos that I've done in the past, like, Poland was like one of my top 5 countries. Like, I've always had love for Poland. But this experience was like, yo, insane. And something else that validated this, and I wish I would have got him on camera. Our last night there, we met a brother from South Africa, a black South African. So we were all staying at the same hostel, and we were, you know, when brothers see brothers, you know, you say, what's up? Especially in Warsaw, where we saw like 2 other black people the entire time we were there. So we were talking to this brother from South Africa, and we didn't even bring up our experience. He brought this up. He says, hey, I feel really uncomfortable here. People are being rude to me. They won't give me directions when I ask. They're just blowing me off. It's like, it is just really uncomfortable. And as we all three of us started to talk on the street outside of our hostel, he was pointing out some of the same things we had experienced. He actually had a Polish girlfriend in Ireland. He was South African, moved to Ireland for work, and then got his girlfriend and then went to Poland and took a job in Poland for 4 months. And he was like, you know, I love her, and you know, I got no idea of racism, like, but when I got here, totally unexpected. And that was his impression. And he was like, I don't know how I'm gonna deal with working here for 3-4 months. I don't know. So it's our experience. Nobody was running around calling us niggas, or you know, I didn't see any swastikas or racist rhetoric thrown around or anything like that. But it was just an overwhelming feeling of danger and threat the entire time we were there. So on my Facebook page, as soon as it happened, I told this story. So if you want to see the original video of this Gdańsk story, go over to my Facebook page and search through the videos. So we left Warsaw. We actually left like 2 days early from Warsaw. We took a train straight up to Gdańsk, and the experience there was totally different. Gdańsk is what I remember Poland being. Like, warm people, super nice, great food, the weather was dope, everything was gravy. Like, Gdańsk was, all right, thank God, like, welcome back to Poland. This is the Poland I love. So we get there, and it's late at night, and we just went down to the harbor. They have an absolutely stunning harbor, and we went and got some fish and chips there, and we were walking back, and it was like one of them scary movies, like where the fog comes in over the water. Check out my Instagram. I think I have a picture. I do have a picture on my Instagram of this. The fog coming in, and it was like a damn scary movie. And you know, in scary movies, black guys get killed first. So I was like, oh shit, we gotta get back. So we're walking. Me and Tony are walking through the middle of the city and have this big monument, right? And it's like a park, like with benches and stuff. And this guy, me and Tony are talking, and this guy walks up to us who had been just talking to another guy with like a little puppy or whatever. He's like, hey, you guys American? And we're like, yeah, we're American. He was like, oh yeah, I heard you guys talking, your accent, you guys are on holiday. Just a casual conversation. I've had conversations like this a million times around the world. Just casual conversation, and we're walking down the street, and then he says, he's like, man, yeah, I wish I can go to America one day. And I made an offhand comment. He's like, oh man, you better hurry up. It might be a little rough with this current administration. And he's like, oh, what, you mean the president? I was like, yeah. I was like, it might be a little tough for you to get a visa. And he goes, he's like, oh, well, you don't like him? I was like, and I give a canned answer. I am not talking about President Trump, President Obama, President Bush, like, anymore, because people just don't understand the nuances of American politics anymore. Even fucking Americans don't understand the nuances of American politics. So I'm definitely not going to have a conversation with a Polish guy with, living in English. So I give him a canned answer like, oh, he's a politician, we'll see what happens, but I'm still an American, I support our country. And he's like, well, yeah, I think he's going to be better than Obama. And that's when the whole damn conversation just turned left. And like, I can feel the heat coming off of Tony, and I'm like, ugh. And I have a high tolerance for bullshit. I have a high tolerance, guys. And he's basically, then he goes on this tirade about, well, because Obama let the Muslims in. There was no Muslim attacks before Obama came in, and Trump's a strong leader. And I'm like, holy shit. Like, okay, all right. I had heard about people like this who supported Trump abroad. I had heard about this. There were people who supported Obama abroad. So why wouldn't there be people who supported Trump? Makes sense. So as we walk, as we go on, I ask the question, because I don't want it to be awkward, and I'm okay with engaging in uncomfortable debates like this, conversations. And I asked, like, hey, are there many Muslims here in Poland? He was like, no, for two reasons. Because one, they're not welcome, and we would not allow them in. And two, we don't have a social security program they could take advantage of. We don't have a lot of money for them, so they don't want to come here. All Muslims just want to come to countries and not work and do nothing. And I'm like, holy shit. In my head, I'm like, whoa, I cannot believe I'm hearing this. And again, I can feel the heat coming off Tony, who's dead silent. And as we're walking, I'm like, and he's going on this Muslim tirade. So I decided to switch it. I say, hey, we haven't seen many African peoples. Like, are there many like African peoples like us? He was like, no, not really. Like, but you guys are American, right? And we're like, yeah, we're American. And he's like, oh, okay, good, you guys are American. And I was like, wow. Like, all right. So we walked for we chatted for another maybe 5 or 6 minutes walking. He was like, hey, I'm going this way. Hey, nice to meet you guys. Shook our hands. Like, I hope you guys have a good time here in Poland. You know, take care, be careful. And he just walked off on his way. And I'm like, wow. Like, it really is, it's interesting, guys, because that level of nationalist rhetoric, it's foreign to me still. Like, given how much I travel, it is foreign to me to be face to face with it, and with a person who 100% feels it's perfectly okay and valid, and who was pleasant. Like, he was a really nice guy. Like, he was kind to us. Like, he started a conversation, went about his way, didn't ask us for a scam or money or nothing like that. So my mind was blown by that concept and that whole thing. And this is one of the few times in travel I'm at a loss. I don't know how to feel. I didn't know how to react. I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to tell you guys. And this doesn't happen to me. And I'm still a little out there about it. So when we flew from Gdańsk to Malta, and Malta was, you know, for me, a new country. And even though I kept trying to engage in Malta, trying to interact and experience and figure it out, I couldn't stop thinking about Poland. How I had this one perspective of Poland, and it was totally flipped like that in a matter of 4 days. My Polish friends had constantly told me, my Polish friends have warned me, and I was warned about this. They said, yo, nationalism and racism are exploding in Poland right now. New Poles that I've met, I remember I met one girl in Thailand who's Polish, and we were talking. I was telling her about how much I love Poland, and she thought I was fucking crazy. No. And she happens to date black men and African men, so she's a little more perceptive of the racism and stuff that goes on. But it's interesting how I did not listen to them. Like, I was warned, and I refused to accept that this nationalist rhetoric or nationalist attitude has exploded, especially when I saw it. You guys might remember this and Google back. There was a guy in Parliament, I want to say he was at the European Union. And it was a Polish guy who was making claims that women should earn less because they're weaker, they're slower, they're less intelligent than men. And I remember the outrage that surrounded that. I want to say that was March, like early March. And it was a Spanish lady. That's who it was. And then, upon further research, because I like to know what I'm talking about, it turns out that he is a huge nationalist leader in Poland. And I would think his support was old Polish people. But it's young Polish people that are his support base. So the Nationalist Party in Poland are young people, which is insane to me. It's usually flipped. The old people are normally the more conservative and nationalist party. So I want to go over my views real quick about nationalism and patriotism, which they're often confused to be the same thing. They are not the same thing. They're similar, but they're not the same. Patriotism is a love for one's country, a belief in a country's ideals and values. Nationalism is a belief that your country's values or structures or identity is superior to others. For example, I consider myself patriotic. I love the United States of America. I love the foundational ideals of it. I love who we are as an identity, although I do not agree with a lot of things that we do. I think the most patriotic thing you can do is be critical of your government. And I think people have misconstrued and hijacked the word patriot or patriotism into this nationalist rhetoric. They bastardize it, and that's what nationalism is. It's bastardized patriotism. It's where people have taken patriotism and turned it into a tool or a weapon of aggression against other people. That's how Donald Trump became president of the United States. And it didn't start with Donald Trump. Like, this has been happening absolutely forever. This us versus them. We are brought up as little kids to believe in this idea U.S. versus the world thing. Any American over the age of 25 should be able to tell you this. As children, we're raised to be soldiers. Like, we're raised to fight. That's our culture. We're one of the few warrior cultures left. So it's always going to be this ultra competitiveness, and that's what nationalism is. It's this beyond anything else, us first idea that anything that threatens us or our identity or our values has to be destroyed and wiped out, which is the reason that the United States makes so many ridiculous decisions in international relations, especially when you have places like the Middle East in the state that it's in right now. So I think it's acceptable to be patriotic. I expect it. I know a lot of my friends, especially my friends from places like Denmark and Scandinavia, are not patriotic at all. One of my good friends who's from Belgium, not at all patriotic. He actually hates the concept. But I accept patriotism when it's passive. This idea that, look, we can be proud of who we are and where we're from. But we can also be open to the idea that we are not perfect and we should not force our ideas on other people, which is difficult to say, because a lot of this nationalist rhetoric is steeped in this idea that they're protecting our values and our cultures and our identity. And it's different, man, because I cannot compare Poland and the United States in this, because Poland has a complicated history with immigration, with war, with conflict, with identity, with culture. I mean, it's so damn complicated. I can't even begin to go into details with that. And I'm going to get a lot of heat for this, I know, but I don't believe it's wrong not to want or allow people into your country because you feel that they I'm sorry guys, I'm trying a hard way to explain this. I feel that it's okay to limit who is allowed to come in your country. I don't believe immigration is a right. I don't believe anybody. I don't have a right to be in Hungary. Like, I'm here by the grace of the Hungarian people, by their kindness to allow me to come and experience their culture, their history, their identity, their beautiful architecture. That is a gift. But by no means do I take that for granted and believe it's a right. If Romania, for example, were to close their borders to me as an American, I just throw my hands up and go somewhere else. Because I believe every country in the world where, again, remember my dynamic, human, American. I believe that if we lived in an ideal world, a perfect world where, oh, excuse me, all right, we're good. In a perfect world where, borders didn't exist, then yeah, I get it. But we do live in a world where borders exist. We do live in a world where there are restrictions on who can come here and go there. We do live in a world where, for the most, if you have a felony, you can't go to Canada, for example. That's the reality of the world. People want to operate it. Like, I think one of the biggest issues is that people try to operate in a world that they believe exists, as opposed to operating in a world that actually does exist. The world that you believe exists, or should exist, doesn't matter. Your idea of what's morally right and acceptable means absolutely nothing unless the society or community or people within that country accept that as well. So to say that, I don't want somebody from Syria to come to my country, I get it, but it's fucking stupid. But here's why. Because for a nationalist or somebody with this nationalist rhetoric, or even somebody who considers himself patriotic, I'm looking at you, the United States, for you to assume that people from Syria or Afghanistan or Iraq or Cuba or Chile, that individual represents that entire people, that entire culture, and it will have a negative impact on you. It's ignorant. It is misleading and it's misguided. It has been shown that immigrants assimilate far quicker into a culture than they reject said culture and become criminals or try to force upon their identity. So the idea that, say, Sharia law is going to be being forced down Americans' throat is just irrational argument. Immigration reform needs to happen globally. I think they're I think, fuck guys, this is so difficult for me because it's so complicated and I hate just throwing bullshit out there. It's such a complicated topic. Immigration reform has to happen in individual countries to combat the issues that we're causing internationally. We cannot inject ourselves in these wars. We cannot create these situations where you have people risking their lives to flee these conflicts that we are agitators of and then close the door on them. It's antiquated. Now, what's about FYI, this used to happen before during the Middle Ages. They didn't give a fuck. Like, the countries in the Middle Ages, they would just conquer, wreck shop, put in despots everywhere and just bounce and hands up. That's not how it is anymore. We live in a globally interconnected community now. So I believe that immigration, for example, I'll just speak about the United States. Immigration in the United States needs to be reformed. I do not believe that illegal immigration is okay. I do not support illegal immigration. I understand it. I have friends who are illegal immigrants, but it needs to be fixed. There needs to be a conscious effort to make it simpler or easier to become a U.S. citizen, and I think that's a problem because it's so you have people on the extreme left and the extreme right who cannot talk to each other, and that's where all this kind of comes down to. This idea that things are black and white. There are only two things in life that are black and white: life and death. Everything else is gray. Period. Life and death are the only two things that are black and white, and period. Everything else is perspective based, it's cultural integration, it's indoctrination, it's programming. So we need to find a point where people like Eric from the United States of America, African American man, can have a conversation with somebody from Poland who's white, upper middle class nationalist. That conversation needs to be able to be had. So, all right, guys, I'm gonna close this. I'm gonna wrap this up. So, I wanna hear from you guys, please. I absolutely love the interaction and the conversations that are had in the comments of these videos. I want to know if you have traveled. Have you experienced anything like I experienced? The xenophobia, the nationalism, the racism, and how did you deal with it? How did it make you feel? Would you go back to these places? And if you are a resident of a country that does not have a large African population, do you recognize the nationalism or the racism or the aggression towards these people? And what can be done? What do you guys think we can change to try to make the world a more welcoming place for everybody, all peoples and identities? And lastly, what are your views on immigration? Do you think that everybody should have a right to just go to whatever country they want? Do you think laws should be more strict? How do you guys feel about that? But as usual, guys, leave the world better than you found it. I'm trying every single day, and I will see you later.